Well, here we are again. I've had a little bit of free time lately, so I thought that I would take this time to do some profiling with you. We're going to look at another style today, and we're going to look at the behavior. We're going to look at the motivational aspects. We're going to look at their big five, and we're going to look at the axiology. So this is going to be an interesting profile. And like always, I have changed the name to protect the innocent. This is a profile I did. This is not a client. It was a pro bono profile I did for a friend of somebody I know. And so I didn't know this person at all. But I did point a few things out. And then lo and behold, that entire relationship within maybe 3 weeks from when I profiled her, that whole relationship went to hell really fast. And I'm going to show you how and why. So this will be really fun. I bumped up the microphone here because it sounded a little echoey last time. Hopefully this is going to fix that. Okay, let's look at the profile. So the profile here, this person is a harmonizer, naturally speaking, and then when in shared space, they become an attractor. So let's take a look at it. Now, this is going to be very interesting because I'm going to show you that you can't make assumptions about how human beings are going to act. And you just have to know that. Let's look at the anger emotion for right now. So what we have here is the anger in the natural position is at a 48. Now, I want to concentrate on this for a second. A 48 is I've realized this over many years I've been doing this. A 48, for some odd reason, is a little bit significant. Almost to the point of a 48 is in play, even though it isn't. And I don't know why that is, but this is what I have found after doing like 44,000 of these. Oh my, there's a giant bird of prey out there just circling. That's amazing. I don't know why that is, but I'll tell you this, it's super significant here, as I'll show you. So that 48, pay attention. That anger at a 48. When adapting, a 33, so it's knocked down. And more, again, you've heard me say this, more amiable. All right, let's look at optimism here. The optimism emotion. We got a natural 86, and we've got an intentional 93. Now, there's such a thing as overextensions. What is an overextension? An overextension is anything greater than 89. Again, this is something I've noticed over many, many years. When about 89 is the threshold. When you cross 80, and the threshold on the other end is 12. It's 12. So anything below 12 and anything above 89 is considered an overextension. And if you want to call the left side an underextension, that's fine. But it just means too much. Too much for functional living, okay? In any emotion. It's very, very stunted when it's below 12, and it's very exaggerated when it's above 89. And we're talking about a 93. Now, out of all the emotions, which one is the most emotional? It's this one right here. It's optimism, because it's the verbal piece. It's the gusher. So that's significant here. There's a lot of emotion here that is coming out. So very outspoken, very emotional, very visceral. So we're talking about the limbic system. Remember the 4 F's come from the limbic area of the brain. Feed, fight, flee, and mating. So that's a joke. So anyway, this 93, keep your mind on that. Now, let's go to patience. We got a 55 on patience. Now, this is the significant thing I want to bring up with this specific profile. Anger and patience are opposite emotions. And what we got going on here is we got a very close, patience is in play. And remember, 48, it's not a lot to creep over here. It's not a lot for this to creep over. And when it does, and patience is in play, then you have an anomaly. All right? And people that live this way are 1% of the people in the database, or less than 1%. Because it doesn't happen a lot. It's pretty rare. And the reason being is because the brain is put into a position of hurry up and slow down, which is it's an oxymoron. So it's a frustrated profile. So there's a tiny bit of frustration brooding here, right? In this figure 8, right here. And when it comes out, you're going to know it right there. It's going to be a gusher, this is exactly what happened. No fear, all right? Independent, self-willed, stubborn. All right, I'm going to get off of that. Let's go to the temperament. This actually might not be a very long one because I feel like I'm working through it pretty quickly. Okay. So look at here. 2 things I want to look at. Notice the color scheme. Red and green. All right? Red and green. Now, go here. All right, let's do this better yet. All right, see that right here? Red and green right here. Okay? Red and green. Right there. Now let's go back to the temperament. Red and green. Okay. Red and green. There's a saying, red touch yellow, kill a fellow. And that phrase is associated with coral snakes. If you have a coral snake and the red stripe is up against a yellow stripe, that's a sign that it's super venomous. Because there are snakes that have the same colored stripes, but red's not touching yellow. It's touching black or white. And so the saying, red touch yellow, kill a fellow, was coined so people could identify the coral snake and not be killed by it. So I'm going to come up with one right now. And this is the first time I've ever done this. Green touch red, you're likely dead. Okay. I'm being kind of silly. But you need to know that when you've got amalgamixing, you're doing alchemy with anger and patient emotions, there's going to be stuff's going to happen. And it's not always great, let me tell you. Okay? So let's first look at agreeableness. Now, this is where you can be fooled. Okay? Look at this. Okay? Now, I happen to know this is not true for this individual. It's not even close. Because this person turned into the queen of bitches over nothing, according to the story. I mean, this person turned into Nightmare on Elm Street very, very fast. And not only that, they were somewhat sociopathic. Did some very terrible things to some small children. You really have to be careful when somebody, you see, this person's delusional because they see themselves as the queen of compassion and the queen of polite. It's definitely not so. All right. Now look at this. This is a sign, folks. I'm trying to help you. Look at this. Look at this volatility. Okay? Volatility. All right? 75 on volatility. Okay, not good. Not good. So volatility will cause you to misinterpret people's comments, and that's exactly what happened. Overestimate the likelihood of negative circumstances, become overly reactive, triggered, exaggerate the actions of other people so that they fit your negative bias, become cynical towards other people or even self-critical. Okay? All this happened in spades. All right? Sorry, I keep picking my nose. It's itching. Cynical, negative, triggered, all of it happened. So this is a very accurate assessment. Now, that doesn't mean somebody doesn't see phrases that talk about being nice and all that, and they don't want to see themselves that way. People do, all right? But when you have high volatility, that's anger. Okay, volatility is coming out of the anger domain, and we saw a 48. So obviously that is actually higher than this person wanted to admit when they were being assessed. And so, the reason why they didn't come up with a volatile score here on the temperament matrix is because it was offset by the other score in neuroticism down here. It was offset by the withdrawal. So there's also depression going on. So this person likely has potentially bipolar or some psychosis. All right, now here's something else. The motivation. Look at this right here. This power piece. So this is a real need to be not authoritative, not tremendously high, but, creeping up on the event horizon here, 66. That's actually pretty high for a female, according to statistics here. So that's pretty high. So this is entering into a need to be in charge of your own life. And so individuality, look at this, individuality in 82. In 82. This is all about setting oneself apart to gain freedom, autonomy, and specialness. All right? So this is red penny syndrome. This person, it's extremely important that this individual remains distinctive in the world, noticed, right? Notice me. I'm the red penny in the jar of 500 copper pennies, and I need to stand out. Now, let me show you another trick. And I might have mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. When you have high distinctiveness, a very high individual need, with this high optimism, all right, which is a need to be liked, a need to be noticed, a need to be seen as special and important, needing praise and strokes. It's adding up, isn't it? You've seen this? It's adding up. And so this person is super insecure. 93, when with human beings, on emotional. And remember, this is the I triangle. Okay, I write about this in my book, The Four People Types and What Drives Them. The I triangle. The I triangle is based upon 3 incessant needs in this order. Number 1, a need to be liked. Number 2, a need to not fail. A need to win, come out on top, you could say. And then the third need is a need to be, is a fear of, it's basically a fear of being mischaracterized. So those are the 3 fears: not being liked, failing, and being mischaracterized. Or you could say a high need. What the heck is that? A need to be liked, a need to not be seen as a failure, and a need to not be, mischaracterized. I get all kinds of crap happening here on my computer, and it's kicking out this thing, so bear with me here. All right. Let's come back here. Look at this here, down here, defiant. Look at curiosity. Okay, I guarantee you this person doesn't read books. Completely disinterested when it comes to knowledge. So this person will likely not take the time to get to know themselves and figure out why they basically, went so sideways, and ended up leaving their rental partner in an absolute lurch. Basically, skipped out on their agreement in a rental situation, left the other person holding the entire rental payment. Terrible things. I mean, really terrible things. That's just one of them. Not very bright. Now, interestingly enough, this person has a decent perceptive score, thinker, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I want you to notice this right here. A little bit of Atychism going on here. Atychism is when you have a inner directed style. So inner-directed people have a greater focus on the inside than they do the outside. So we got a 32 here. And then the self-summary, we got a 22. So the self-score is of greater clarity, more operative than the world score. So this person has a greater sense of self and a lesser sense of the world around them, which is obvious. I'm going to take care of me and leave you holding the bag. That's that inner-directed. Okay, it's only 30% of people are inner-directed. What do? They rely on their own personal powers for decision-making as they perceive themselves with greater clarity than they perceive the world around them. So inner-directed people, can be all about themselves and less about other people, which in this case, that was really, really the case. And it was it was exaggerated, to be honest. Let's look at the empathy score here. So clarity is really strong and 80 is really good. But we got more of a negative score. So this person's distrusting. So 63% negative. But if you do the math, it's only a 2. So that's not that bad. But there is an element of distrust here. Practical thinking. Okay, the clarity is dropped. We got a 15 or so in clarity. And that brings us into foggy zone here, but inattentive. So this person has an attention deficit for sure. It's inattentive. And wavers between lacking urgency and being results oriented. So basically, will likely sometimes they're procrastinating and sometimes they're not, is really what this is. And here, this is a focus situation. So this is attention. Inattentive is a deficit in attention. That's why I say attention deficit. Structured thinking, here's the strength. 78, so overly valued. So a very strong 7 to 2 here. So anal attentive and follow the rules. Whose rules? Whose rules is this person following? Their own. Right here. They're defiant. Right there. Okay? Defiant people march to the beat of their own drum. Especially when they're trying to be distinctive. So this orderly business, not happening. Orderly people follow the rules handed down to them, okay, from above. And so they tend to live up to regulations and rules. When you're defiant, you create your own rules and live down to them, okay, which is what this person's doing. So when we look at the structured thinking process, we've got somebody who has their own ideas. This is perfection. So this person develops impatience with what they see as an imperfect world or environment that needs constant adjustment. The world needs to look like, quote, their world. They're only marching to the beat of their drum. So if your drum is out of sync with their drum, you lose. They win. They become frustrated and oversensitive to imperfections in the people around them, which is what happened. What they perceive is imperfect or out of sync with what I think the way it needs to be, or out of sync with what I think it needs to happen. They become very dogmatic and judgmental in their thinking and planning, leaving little to no wriggle room for errors and mistakes in other people. And so Look at this. What else do? They justify their actions when they turn out to be wrong. Well, the reason why I'm not going to hold up my end of the bargain when it comes to the rent is because you're an idiot. You don't deserve it, right? So remember, your brain does not verify if what you're doing is a good or right thing. It justifies the way you feel. So everybody justifies their actions. They don't verify them unless they're cornered and forced. And even then, most people will disagree with you. This is why if you get a politician in front of a news reporter and they ask them a question, they never answer it. Have you ever noticed that? They never answer the question. They don't verify, they justify. So they just come up with a post hoc story that has nothing to do with the question asked. So what does that mean? It means they're experts at being sociopathic. Did you hear me? Politicians are not public servants. If you want to serve, join the military. Politicians are power people. They're power people. If you look at the motivation score, all your politicians are either authoritative, forceful, or controlling. That's why they entered politics, because they don't like where the car is going, so they want to drive now. That's not service. That's power. Power, authority, and control. People are crazy. I've been serving the community. No, you're not serving. You're directing and controlling. All right? Here's how we're going to do it now that I'm in charge. Now that I'm here, everything's going to change. There's a new sheriff in town. That's the way politics works, folks. Wake up! Another wake-up call. All right. Back to this. So, very structured. People like this are so concerned with doing what they believe is right, they don't do the right thing. Happens all the time, not just with crazy people. Self-esteem score. Clarity is strong. They see their value, but 100% negative. They focus on the flaws. They focus on the... I'm glad this is happening. This needs to happen. Look at this. Functional worth, confidence. Extreme confidence and competence is balanced. So the confidence is very, very strong. Very, very strong. So this person places too much emphasis on status and recognition. Become overly sensitive to what other people think or say about their performance, so they can't take criticism. They have an unrealistic confidence in their ability to perform. Anyway, self-direction. So 67, that's a very strong positive score, 100%. So this person knows, it got a very strong sense of purpose, lacking a little bit of commitment here. So, of course, they were uncommitted to the rent. That's rather in this uncommitted piece here. They were overcommitted to where they were, their sense of purpose, which is where they were going, their sense of direction. They actually moved out of state. They moved from the West Coast. They went from California to Virginia. Goodbye. You want your money? Come get me. On the values matrix, we got this structured thinking here going on. So I'm using this profile to show you that if you're not really clear on what all these emotions, these material values, and these axiological pieces mean, it can be difficult to discern a person. And when I did this debrief, I centered in on one thing. There's one thing I centered in on and spent a lot of time with it. And that was this. See this here? Right here. This volatility and this agreeableness. That's a big problem right there. That's a really big problem. This is neurotic. And I told them that they were neurotic. And the partner was sitting in on this, and they heard it. Yeah. I pointed it out, and then it all went to hell. I'd say within 14 days. It has nothing to do with the debrief. It just was their personal circumstances. But the reason why it all went so sideways is right here. This one thing. Out of the entire profile, all 4 assessments, this is the problem. Right there. All right? So can we predict what will happen? No, you can't, because these tools don't predict performance. They predict thinking styles, behavioral styles, how they handle rejection. You may not be good at handling rejection, but because your job is at stake, odds are pretty good you're going to take a better course of action in a given situation in order to keep that job, depending upon other circumstances, where you are financially. So there are too many variables to rely on an assessment of any kind for a predictor of performance. It's not possible. You can't do it. And anybody that ever tells you that their assessment is going to predict your performance, it's not true. It can't. None of my clients believe I'm going to be able to predict performance. I tell every one of them over and over again, we cannot predict employee performance. But I will definitely predict how they're going to think, act, or react in a given situation with another human being based upon the way their brain wiring is. That you can predict. And you could predict it greater than 85%. If you're good. So there you have it. Neuroticism can cause you to scream and yell at people, do terrible things, walk out, and leave your partner holding the bag. And it won't even bother you. That's what neuroticism can do. This might be the first neurotic profile I've shown you. I'm not sure. So anyway, there you have it. Well, I appreciate you tuning in. And yeah. I don't know why I'm feeling somber right now. I guess it's because I'm looking at these numbers here. Let me look at conscientiousness real quick. Oh my God. Orderly, look at this. Orderly. Non-industrious. The strength is coming out of the orderly piece. Okay? Let's see here. Be seen by other people as narrow-minded, overly serious, inflexible, dogmatic, and rigid, close-minded to ideas that don't originate with you. Oh my God, if that isn't the truth. And you put that with this, defiance, you got a me conflict right here. Do you know what a me conflict is? I thought I was ending this thing, but I guess I'm not. A me conflict is when you've got a conflictive emotions and values inside of yourself. So they see themselves as very orderly and very regulated and very rigid and strict and narrow in thinking. But when it comes to whatever those ideas are, they end up in this defiance piece. So they're looking to be able to defy orders and rules. So what's happening? You know what's going to happen with this? To the degree that they believe they are right and rigid and orderly in their thinking, they will push that towards resisting what you think is right. When you're marching to the beat of your own drum, you're ignoring the other drums. So let's say you go to work or you're in a relationship with a person and they say, hey, could you do me a favor and clean up the kitchen? I got to get to work. I forgot. I'm late for a meeting. And if you're in a loving relationship, it's like, sure, I'll take care of that. What will this person do? Clean up your own damn mess. Because that was a drum beat that wasn't originating with them. So that's a me conflict. You're very orderly, but only with your own ideas. Because being an individual and defiant is a freedom seeker. See that? It's a freedom seeker. What's the most important thing? Being independent from you, independent of you. What's the least important thing to this person? Knowledge, the truth. Unreal. You can't make this stuff up. You just can't make it up. But there it is. Psychic energy, integrated. That ain't giving me much to go on. So anyway, harmonizing. Well, if you're lucky, you'll get the harmony. If you're not, you get the hammer with this person. This is why one assessment is not enough. You know, some people, they're like, oh, we did a strength finder. That's it? You know, oh, so you know this person now. This is why we run 4 of them. Because human beings are very complex. We look at the east, west, north, and south of this person's brain. That's one way to put it. We look at the whole person. We profile the whole person. And when you do that, you get these incredibly cool nuances. And you'll see things that one assessment might not fully pick up. So it's important. All right. I'm going to end this now. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. And that's it. I'm stalling because I'm looking for the finish button. There it is. All right. Well, good spending time with you again. And until next time, this is Steve Sisler signing off.